The institution of slavery was the quintessential example of a group of people exploiting another for their own personal benefit. This us-them mentality allowed the Southern aristocracy to prosper in the 19th century, acquiring a large portion of the Southern wealth. However, today I would like to argue that the us-them mentality that was adopted in the 19th century can still be seen thriving in our society today. The Southern planter aristocracy that developed created a society in which there was no social mobility. On this board is a representation of two different civilizations, the North and the South. On the left, I have drawn a rectangle to show the equality and ease of social mobility within the Northern society. There are defined classes, but no one can be generationally locked into a specific class. However, on the right, I have drawn a triangle to represent the Southern society. The South was an aristocracy with all the wealth and resources being controlled by a small amount of the population. The constricting walls of this society provide for no social mobility, and the backbone of the society was the institution of slavery and the willingness of the white Southerners to exploit them. Within the past 40 years alone, there have been countless instances of certain individuals trying to reconstruct the triangle society of the South. The actions taken by many people during the market crash of 2008 and 2009 demonstrate an attempt to rebuild an aristocracy. In the inside job, we witness the inner workings of the securitization chain. In short, this allowed local lenders to sell their loans to larger investment banks who would sell them to investors. This meant that the local lender has no risk in the failure to repay the loan. Since there was no risk for local lenders, they felt secure in handing out riskier loans. As described in the inside job, this system was a ticking time bomb. During this period of predatory lending, CEOs of big investment banks were making huge money. Richard Fuld, CEO of Lehman Brothers, made $485 million during this financial bubble. Employees at AIG, or the American International Group, brought home $3.5 billion in bonuses in the same amount of time. A few years later, the bubble bursts. Home foreclosures skyrocketed in 2008, and the original loan lenders went bankrupt. Eventually, AIG, the insurance group who insured all the corrupt CDOs, went bankrupt and was forced to be bailed out by the government, costing American taxpayers $150 billion. This ideology, the investment banks held that it was okay to exploit people out of money, resembles the way Southern plantation owners felt about taking advantage of their slaves. A similar instance of deregulation is occurring right now with net neutrality. Ajit Pai, the chairman of the FCC, is advocating for the removal of net neutrality. Net neutrality is the ground rule that internet service providers, or ISPs, must treat all customers fairly and not throttle their speeds or charge differently for different users, sites, streaming services, or applications. Removing net neutrality would essentially give a huge amount of power to internet service providers like AT&T and Verizon. In fact, Ajit Pai used to be a high-tier lawyer at Verizon. Now we all know where his loyalties lie, and that is with big corporations. If net neutrality is repealed, the internet bills of Americans could skyrocket overnight. You would be forced to pay extra money for certain services. Clearly, Pai and anyone else on the FCC board who votes to repeal net neutrality feels that it is okay for big corporations to exploit their customers. Again, we witness the theme of exploitation. I want to end this video by saying personally that I don't believe it is okay for companies and groups of people to treat others like this. American citizens should not be exploited by companies like the Southerners exploited slaves.